to Real Estate Cookies, where we give you bite-sized strategies on how to get started in real estate. Today, we're talking about 10 reasons why you should buy a duplex. 10 reasons why you should buy a duplex. They are simple, but very profound when you actually understand the reasoning behind it, and actually very lucrative as well. So let's get right into it. First off, what's a duplex? A duplex comes in lots of shapes and sizes. First off, you're probably thinking of a house that has an apartment on the first floor and an apartment on the second floor. That's true. That's called an upper-lower duplex. There's also a side-by-side duplexes when you have apartment on this side and apartment on this side, and the house is, set with a wall between. That's a side-by-side duplex. Sometimes they're 2 stories, sometimes they're 1 story. Those are typically more desirable than the upper-lower. It's always harder to rent an upper apartment, and sometimes a lower apartment if you have someone above you. So that creates more problems. If you can get a side-by-side duplex, they're more desirable, in my opinion. But there's also other kinds. There's any type of property that has more than one source of income. So think about it. It could be a piece of land that has a house on it and a spot where you rent out for a billboard. So there's billboard income coming in. There might be a farm where you have a house and land and you rent out the land. That's not the strict definition of a duplex, but it's more than one source of income. Another source of it might be a commercial on the bottom, maybe in a downtown area, with a commercial space on the bottom and a apartment upstairs. That's a great way to get started too. You can rent out the lower, have income coming from it, and live in the upper. So there's a lot of different types. One more I just remembered is a piece of land that has 2 houses on it. We actually looked at one recently that had 3 houses on it. That's not my ideal place to live, but you had a main house, you had a second house, and then you had a third house, all generating income. So a duplex comes in lots of shapes and sizes. If I had to recommend something, I would begin looking for a side-by-side duplex. The reason is they're easier to rent. Long term, they hold their value better. I'm going to recommend you live in it. So I want you to 10 reasons why you should buy and move into a duplex. And living in it is more desirable than living in an upper lower. But you might not have side by sides available in your area. You might have to do an upper lower, and it's not that terrible. So yeah, 10 reasons why you should own and move into a duplex. And this is something that when we got started, this was the first thing we did. We had a nice condo out in the country and we sold it, moved into a sketchy neighborhood, so to speak, and lived in the lower and rented out the upper. And it provided a great source of income for us. And so first thing off, I tell everybody, that's what a duplex is. This is why you should do it. The first reason number 1, are financing terms. When you move into a property, it's considered owner-occupied. Therefore, the bank finds it less risky than a non-owner-occupied when you're renting out to somebody else. So owner-occupied gets better financing terms. And so that's what you buy a single-family home. You get, you can go to like maybe 3% down, 2% down. Rules are changing every day anymore, but the amount you got to get down is less. The difficulty to qualify is less. So owner-occupied is preferable. So if you combine the strategies with a duplex, you're going to get owner-occupied terms in your financing, meaning you're going to get a lower interest rate, lower down payment, and easier to qualify. Okay, so your financing terms become better, and that interest rate over time, when it's lower, provides you more cash flow. It also provides you with saving a lot of money over the long term. So the beneficial financing of an owner-occupied, you're going to get a lower interest rate and lower down payment, which means you can get into something a lot easier. Typically, buying an investment property that's non-owner occupied, banks and places will tell you need 20% down. Well, that limits, if you don't have a lot of cash, limits what you can get. And it's also harder to qualify. So now we're looking at owner-occupied terms, lower interest rate, lower down payment, easier to qualify. So that's what we want to look at. That's number 1. Number 2 is that income qualification help. So when you go to buy a place, looking at, well, how much money do you make? What's your income? Can you afford to pay this back? Well, when you get another tenant next to you, guess what? They're going to count that income from that unit. Not 100% of it, but it will help you qualify. They might take say it's $1,000 a month rent for simple math. They'll say, okay, that could bring in $12,000 a year. They'll subtract a 10% vacancy, and then you'll have the number that will qualify towards your rent. And it might even be lower than that. It depends on what mortgage broker you're going to use. But you're going to have money helping you qualify. What does that do? Well, one, it makes it easier to qualify. Two, it makes your monthly outlay, once you buy the property, move into it, and live there, your monthly outlay is less. And if you're really committed to real estate investing, you might take that extra, begin putting it away to save up for your next property. It also allows you to buy a more expensive property in a nicer area. So on your own income, you might only qualify for a lower priced house because it's single family and you're the only person paying it back. But if you get into a duplex with someone else's income supplementing your ability to qualify, you can get into a bigger house and in a better neighborhood, okay, in a more desirable place. Well, now you got, instead of having, maybe you buy, and I'm using simple math. If you're in California, use your imagination. But if you have a $100,000 house and maybe the market goes up at 6%, or would you rather have a $500,000 house going up at 6%, or a $300,000 house going up at 6%? So if you can get into a bigger house, if it appreciates, you're going to make more money at the end of the day. So it allows you to helps you qualify for a better house in a better neighborhood that will appreciate faster, just purely on the dollar amount side of it. And that's what having a renter in a duplex helps you do, helps you qualify. Okay. Number 3 is landlord experience. You're going to get some landlord experience, but not in a, 10 tenants all of a sudden. You're going to have one tenant, just one. And I'm telling you, you think it's easy, but it's not. When we bought our first duplex, we sold our condo, moved into it. I rented our upstairs out, and I thought he seemed like a good tenant. He said all the right things. But every day he would come home from work, and he would have a 6-pack of beer and a gallon of milk. The total truth. And I would wait at the window. Hey, he's coming. I would go out there and said, hey, you got my rent today? Oh, man, no, I forgot. I'll bring it by tomorrow. Okay, great. I go back in. Tell my wife, hey, he's bringing the rent tomorrow, no big deal. We were very green, very new at this. Next day, comes home from work, a gallon of milk and a 6-pack of beer. Hey, you got my rent? Oh, first thing tomorrow morning before work, I'll drop it in the slot up front, in the mail slot. Okay, good. I get up in the morning, I check the mail slot. It's not there. This went on for weeks, and every day I hounded him for the rent. He never paid. It ended up with me having to file an eviction, and then he still didn't leave, and the police came from a court order and physically removed him from the property. That was my first experience with a renter. But we didn't quit. We were very discouraged, but we didn't quit. We got smarter, and our next tenant was an ex-military guy, and honestly, he's the best tenant I've had in my entire life. He left the place better than when he moved in. He painted things, he sanded things down. He was fantastic. So I had the polar opposites on my first 2 tenants, but I learned in a situation where if that tenant didn't pay, I wasn't going to lose the house. It wasn't comfortable to pay the full mortgage payment on my own, but I could if I needed to. So the landlord experience is so critical. You'll have to figure out, do you have an application, and are you a member of the landlord association, and what the laws are, and what kind of a business account are you going to deposit the money into, or it's going to go in your own personal account? All these types of questions you're going to have to figure out, and it's so much easier figuring out with one tenant as opposed to like 5 or 6. And having that person right next to you keeps it in front of you all the time, so I have to deal with this. And you're going to figure out really quickly if you like being a landlord or not. I've had some people say, landlording is not for me. Okay, man, let's go buy vacant land or something. You don't have to deal with tenants. But if you're going to do this and you want passive income through rental property, you're going to have to learn how to be a landlord. And you say, well, I'm just going to hire a management company. That's great. And eventually you probably might do that. But you don't want to start that way. You got to know how to vet a future management company, because if you don't ever do it yourself, you're not going to know what questions to ask, and you're going to take too much of your cash flow because the margin is going to be too tight. So learn how to be a landlord by buying a duplex, having one tenant, managing it well. You get the experience. Fourth thing is you have a high demand product. Okay, duplexes are in high demand, which makes it maybe a little bit harder to find when you go to look for it. But when you go to sell, there's people there wanting them as well. People like this idea of another income coming in to supplement where they live. And so they're easy to sell when you get ready to move on. Okay? And so it is a high demand product where it's not going to sit there for a long period of time or be undesirable. You got to make sure you buy in the right neighborhood. And I like to say you buy conventional products. You don't want to buy a house that's been chopped up everywhere and bedrooms are in, little lean-tos that weren't built right. Like, you got to buy a house with good bones. But if you do that and you buy in the right neighborhood, you have a product that other people want to buy. And so if you ever need to sell it, you can do that. Okay? So that's an easy thing to do. All right? So we want to understand we have a high demand product, but another thing with this is you might find investor ownership. So when you go to buy a normal single family home, usually you're buying from another single family, that lived there, and now they're selling them. But when you buy a duplex, you might run into an investor that's owned it for a while that now wants to sell it. It might be for sale by owner. You might be able to get terms, like asking the seller to hold financing, and we'll cover that in another class. But that's a great way for you to expand what you own without having to go to the bank or having to save up all the down payments. You get the seller to provide you the down payment in the form of a note. And we'll cover that again. But with these duplexes, oftentimes they're owned by investors. And so you can possibly take it over in a lease option. You could buy it. Maybe they're just a frustrated landlord's ready to dump it. You can find that too. You can also go to the landlord association and approach landlords and say, look, I want to get started. I want to buy a duplex and I want to move into it. Would you want to sell one to me? You'll have landlords that will work with you in doing that. So it's a great way to find that high demand product, but it's also investor owned. So go to the landlord associations. Look at the duplexes that are for rent. That landlord has an opening. So that's where you find your inventory. You go to look at the openings, and then you go to them and say, hey, would you be interested in selling? They're already down a tenant. They've probably had to move somebody out. They had to put money into it. Sometimes they want to get their money back. It's a great opportunity. So when you go to look for this high demand product, don't just look in the MLS with a realtor on what's available. You got to go hunt these properties down. You got to go talk to landlords. Look for rent signs on these places, because that's where you'll find your deals. And again, if you watch my last video, good deals attract money. All right. So number 6, future tax-free income. So the way the rule works is that if you live in a house for 2 years and 1 day, you can sell that property and any gain you make is tax-free. Let me say that again, if you don't understand, that's a huge deal. If you live in a house for 2 years and 1 day, you can sell that house and any gain you make is tax-free. I don't know of another place where you can do that. We literally moved every 2 years for probably 8 years. We moved 2 years, 1 day, we would move. We'd sell it, move, or we'd just move again to buy another house, because it doesn't have to be consecutive days. It has to be just 2 years and 1 day. And there are limits and different things. I think that's the 200. I wrote it down here. It is up to $250,000, and if $500,000 if you're married filing a joint return. So that's $500,000 of tax-free money that's out there if you live in a place. Now remember the number 2, the income qualification help? Well, think about it. If you buy a property for more money and then that appreciates, and then you can sell it and you get tax-free income from it. Now you have a base. Now you have a thing you can use to go buy 2 houses, or go buy your next duplex, or buy a single family home with a 3% down type thing. Take the extra money and buy another rental property with that as well. There's so many options you have, but it provides you with future tax-free income. Don't get attached to these houses. These are stepping stones. And I know I'm asking you maybe to make a sacrifice. Well, we like our house. Okay. How bad do you want to get started? We liked our house too, and we sold it. Our friends thought we were crazy, but we moved into the duplex. 2 years later, we moved into another duplex. Then we had three. We had 3 units we were renting, and we had no mortgage payment. So we were in our early 30s, no mortgage payment, which was fantastic, which allowed us to get ahead. So we took a couple steps backwards in what everyone else might think is like, oh, your house isn't as nice, but we were preparing for something bigger. We had a different goal. Okay, so I love what Dave Ramsey once said: live like no one else, so that one day you can live like no one else. And so sometimes you got to make some changes that to the average person out there doesn't make sense. Why would you move into a duplex? Well, I got 10 reasons why. All right. So future tax-free income is huge, but also future cash flow. So one strategy would be live there 2 years and 1 day and sell it and go do it again. Perfectly fine. Another strategy is live there 2 years and 1 day and then move to another duplex. So while you've been living there, you haven't been paying a full mortgage payment. You save up a down payment. 2 years, 1 day, you go find another duplex. You move out of this one into this one. Now, when you move out, now you're getting owner-occupied financing again. And once you move into there, now you have this unit, you rent it to someone else. You have two units here that are rented, plus 1 there. Now you have 3 units rented. You're making a nice cash flow, probably not even making a mortgage payment. And what do? You save the money again. You begin to build it up so that you can do it again. Okay? And this is how you get started. This isn't how you finish. This is a getting started program. All right? Because you can't keep doing this forever. Because you can only get, when you're going under your own social security number and doing them personally and like that, you can only get so many houses. Then they'll put a stop to it because your income's only going to be so much and you can't keep doing it forever, but you can get started this way. Now, there are a few objections. If you get owner-occupied financing, live there 2 years and 1 day, move out to another one, there might be some things in your mortgage documents that state you need to live there. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, the mortgage company cares about getting their money. You live there for that long, make your payment every single day, and then you move out and go somewhere else. I have never heard of one person having a problem. And honestly, the banks don't care at that point. They just care if they're getting their money. They've already sold the mortgage to somebody else. It's long gone from the person who wrote it. I don't want to tell you to break the law, but I'm just saying it happens all the time. And as long as you're making the mortgage payment, I've never had one person had a problem. So be aware of it, but this is how we grew our business. Okay. So future cash flow is when you get two of them running, and then now all of a sudden you have 3 units. What we did is we had this one, bought another duplex, and then we bought a single family home because then we had 4 units producing income. We didn't pay any mortgage. Okay. And so it's all and that's what we wanted to use it for. But you may not mind that. You may want this to begin paying down the debt. There's a lot of strategies you can use. Needless to say, I love having options because we have cash flow. So you'll have cash flow at that point. All right. Number 8, momentum and confidence. You get into the game, you get confidence, it changes your mindset. Good deals attract money. You start looking for deals. You start looking at duplexes. You start seeing houses with more than one source of income on them. You start thinking creatively. You might even find a vacant piece of land and build a duplex. I mean, all kinds of things can happen, but you got to get moving. One little phrase I always say, it's easier to steer a moving car. You ever sit in the parking lot and try to move the wheel? It doesn't work. If you're coasting or you're moving, no problem. You got to get moving. So buying the duplex, moving into it, being a landlord, seeing the money come in, how to manage it, how to do all of it, you'll understand the terms better, how the process works, what the reality of it is, and you'll stop dreaming about it and actually start doing it. You're going to realize it's a lot harder than you thought, but you're also going to realize that you can do it. And so you need the momentum and the confidence. And that's number 8. That's what it gives you. All right. Number 9, you have several exit strategies. We'll go through exit strategies in this different videos that I'll do. But for right now, I mean, one obvious one is you can sell it and take the money tax-free. Number 2 is you can move out and rent it and have cash flow from it. Number 3, a little more advanced strategy, is you can find another person that wants to get started and you can lease option the property to them. Okay? You maintain control of the property. You give them an option to buy. They put a down payment down, but then they're responsible for repairs. It's a whole different ballgame, but it is an exit strategy that's out there. You can also sell the property and hold a note if you want to begin into the note business and getting interest on things. And if they default, you take it back, you get your property back. It's kind of a mess, but you can make it happen. So you have multiple exit strategies with an income property. All right, and that's because you got into the game, you have momentum, you're going to continue learning because you're going to be excited about it. So that's number 9. Number 10, don't end on a downer, but it is true. It's a backup plan. As real estate investors, my wife and I have done some things where we've looked at each other and said, I hope this works. And we said, well, if it doesn't work, we can always move back into the duplex. So I'm telling you, it happens. Also, you can, I hate to say it, but things happen. Lose your job. Maybe you want to quit your job and because you want more time to invest in real estate and you got to cut your expenses. Move back in the duplex. You have to think about your home as an investment piece of real estate. It's different. It's a different way of thinking. And you don't live like this forever. Okay. It's hard on kids. It's hard to move. We did a lot of this before we had kids, but if you have kids, you can still do it, but it's more difficult. And I get that, but maybe you only move twice. You move into a duplex, move into another one, and maybe then a single family. I don't know, but it is a decent backup plan. You always have that. You always have that spot to go back to. All right. So 10 reasons why you should buy a duplex and move into it as soon as possible. Okay. And if you want to get started doing this, I would pull up on Zillow or your local multiple listing service and do a search on all the duplexes that are out there. I would go on Facebook Marketplace and I would look at apartments for rent, and I would try to find them in neighborhoods that you are interested in, and I would try to find duplexes, and then I would reach out to the landlord about renting the apartment and say, would you consider selling it to us? Okay. You have a lot of options when you do that. But first thing, 10 reasons why you should buy a duplex and move into it. Financing terms, income qualification help, landlord experience, high demand product, investor ownership, future tax-free income, future cash flow, momentum and confidence, exit strategies, and lastly, a backup plan. All right. Thanks for joining me on Real Estate Cookies. I hope you've enjoyed this. There'll be more to come, and we'll keep the cookies on the bottom shelf so you can make some progress. Take care.